Thomas lived in a small cabin isolated in a quiet valley surrounded by towering trees and distant mountains. After his wife passed away, he moved there to escape his grief. No visitors, no distractions, just the silence of the wilderness and his thoughts. His days were filled with simple routines, a solace in his solitude. But one stormy night, a knock at the door broke his quiet world. A woman stood there with 2 children, drenched, desperate, and looking for refuge. Thomas hesitated, his heart torn between isolation and compassion. This moment would change everything. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from and subscribe if you believe that unexpected encounters can transform lives. The valley was quiet, surrounded by tall trees and distant mountains. Thomas had lived there for many years. He moved there after his wife passed away. She died from a long illness, and her loss left a deep void in his life. After she was gone, Thomas withdrew from the world. He found comfort in solitude, sticking to simple routines. Every day he would chop wood, tend to a small garden, and read old books. Memories of his wife lingered in every corner of the cabin, from her favorite chair to the quilt she had sewn. One stormy night, the wind howled through the trees. Rain lashed against the windows and thunder echoed in the valley. Thomas sat by the fireplace reading a worn book. The warmth of the fire was welcome on such a cold, wet night. He enjoyed the quiet of these evenings where nothing disturbed the peace of his home. But that night was different. A sudden knock on the door startled him. He was not used to visitors, especially not during a storm. Thomas hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do. The knocking continued, more urgent now. He got up, put his book aside, and went to the door. When he opened it, he was surprised to see a woman standing there. She was drenched from the rain, her clothes soaked and her hair plastered to her face. Beside her stood 2 children, a girl and a boy. They looked up at him with wide, pleading eyes. The woman introduced herself as Emily Sinclair. She explained that their car had broken down nearby. They had been trying to find shelter from the storm. Thomas hesitated again, unsure of how to respond. He had grown used to his own company and was not prepared for guests. But he could not turn them away, not in this weather. He stepped aside and allowed them to enter the cabin. Inside, the warmth of the fire greeted them. Thomas fetched some towels and offered them to Emily and the children. They dried themselves as best they could, grateful for the shelter. Emily thanked Thomas for his kindness, though there was a wariness in her eyes. She seemed protective of the children, as if ready to defend them at any moment. Thomas prepared some food for them. It was a simple meal, but it was warm and filling. The children, Sarah and Jack, ate hungrily. Thomas watched them, noting how different they were from each other. Sarah, the older of the 2, was quiet and reserved. Jack, on the other hand, was curious and full of questions. He looked around the cabin, taking in every detail. As the storm raged outside, Thomas and Emily talked. It was a tentative conversation, filled with pauses and silences. Thomas learned that Emily was fleeing from something, though she did not say what. There was a sadness in her voice, a hint of fear that she tried to hide. Thomas did not press her for details. He understood the need for privacy, for keeping certain things close to the chest. The night stretched on, and the storm showed no signs of letting up. Thomas offered them a place to sleep for the night. It was not much, just some blankets and a spot by the fire, but it was warm and safe. Emily accepted, grateful for his hospitality. As the children settled down to sleep, Thomas found himself watching them. Their presence was strange but not unwelcome. It had been a long time since the cabin had seen such life. The laughter of children was a distant memory for him, something he had forgotten. Yet now it brought a sense of warmth that he did not expect. Thomas returned to his chair by the fire, picking up his book again. But he found it hard to focus on the words. His mind wandered back to the woman and her children. He wondered about their story, about what had brought them to his door on such a night. He glanced over at them, asleep on the floor. Emily's face was peaceful, free from the worry that marked her waking hours. The children lay close to her, seeking comfort in her presence. The storm continued outside, fierce and unrelenting. But inside the cabin there was a sense of calm. The fire crackled softly, casting a warm glow over the room. Thomas felt a shift within himself, a small change he could not quite define. The presence of these strangers had stirred something in him, something he thought he had lost. As the night wore on, Thomas found himself feeling a sense of responsibility toward Emily and her children. They had come to him in need, and he had offered them shelter. It was a small act of kindness, but it felt significant. He had been living in isolation for so long, focused only on his own grief and solitude. Now he was reminded that there were others in the world, others who needed help and compassion. Thomas put down his book and closed his eyes, listening to the storm outside. It was a long time before he fell asleep, his thoughts full of the unexpected visitors who had changed the course of his quiet life. The cabin, once a place of solitude and silence, now held the promise of something new. In the morning, the storm would still be there, but so would Emily, Sarah, and Jack. Thomas knew that this was only the beginning, that their arrival marked the start of something he could not yet understand. But for now, as the fire burned low and the rain drummed against the roof, he was content to simply be present, to let the moment unfold as it would. When morning came, the storm was even worse. The wind howled and rain continued to pour down heavily. Thomas woke up to find Emily and her children already awake. They were huddled close together, trying to keep warm. Thomas knew it would be impossible for them to leave in such weather. The valley road would be muddy and dangerous, and their car was still broken. Emily looked at Thomas, concern etched on her face. She did not want to impose, but there seemed to be no choice. Thomas nodded, understanding her unspoken question. They could stay until the storm passed. It was not a problem for him, though he felt the weight of the disruption to his quiet life. Throughout the day, they settled into an uneasy routine. Thomas was not used to having others around, and Emily was cautious, keeping a watchful eye on her children. She spent much of her time sitting by the window, staring out at the relentless storm. It was clear she was worried, though she tried to hide it. Thomas went about his usual chores, chopping wood and tending to the small garden, though the rain made it difficult. He noticed Jack following him around, full of curiosity. The boy asked questions about everything, from the tools Thomas used to the plants in the garden. Thomas answered patiently, finding some enjoyment in the boy's endless wonder. Sarah, on the other hand, was quieter. She stayed close to her mother, observing everything with calm eyes. Thomas saw maturity in her beyond her years. She seemed to understand more than she let on, and her quiet presence intrigued him. In the evenings, they all gathered around the fireplace. Thomas cooked simple meals, sharing what little he had. Emily offered to help, and together they prepared food for the children. It was a small gesture, but it created a sense of shared purpose. The cabin, once filled only with silence, now echoed with the sounds of life. As the days passed, Emily and Thomas began to talk more. They shared bits of their pasts, each story marked by loss. Thomas spoke of his wife, how her illness had changed everything. Emily listened, her eyes softening with understanding. She too had known loss, though her story was different. She was fleeing from a troubled past, though she kept the details vague. Thomas sensed a deep sadness in her, a fear she struggled to hide. The children brought life to the cabin, a life Thomas had almost forgotten. Jack's curiosity was infectious, and Sarah's quiet strength was comforting. They slowly began to chip away at Thomas's defenses, reminding him of the joy he had once known. Emily started helping with household chores, her presence bringing a warmth Thomas had long forgotten. She cleaned and organized, making the cabin feel more like a home. Her touch was gentle yet firm, and Thomas found himself appreciating her company more each day. The storm continued for several days, making it impossible for Emily and the children to leave. They settled into a routine, each day blending into the next. Thomas found himself unexpectedly enjoying their company. He had grown used to solitude, but now he saw the value in companionship. Evenings were the most peaceful. They would sit together by the fire, sharing stories or simply enjoying the quiet. The children would fall asleep, their small forms huddled under blankets. Emily would watch them, a soft smile on her face, a hint of contentment breaking through her worry. One evening, as the fire crackled softly, Emily opened up more about her past. She spoke of the fear that had driven her to leave, of the difficult decisions she had to make to protect her children. Thomas listened, offering quiet support. He understood the need to escape, to find a place where one could breathe freely. Thomas found himself becoming protective of Emily and the children. He realized he cared for them, this makeshift family that had come into his life so unexpectedly. He resolved to help them in any way he could, even if it meant stepping out of his comfort zone. The storm finally began to subside, but by then a bond had formed between them all. Emily and her children had become more than just guests. They were part of the cabin, part of Thomas's life. The thought of them leaving brought a pang of sadness to him, something he had not anticipated. Emily sensed this change in Thomas. She saw the way he interacted with the children, the way he had begun to open up. She was grateful for his kindness, for the refuge he had provided. For the first time in years, she felt safe, a feeling she had almost forgotten. Thomas found solace in their presence. The laughter of children, the warmth of shared meals, and the comfort of knowing he was not alone brought new meaning to his days. The cabin, once a place of solitude, had become a haven of life and warmth. As the weather cleared and the roads became passable, Emily knew they would have to move on. But deep down, she hoped they could stay, that this new life they had found could continue. Thomas, too, hoped for the same. He realized that his quiet, solitary life was not what he wanted anymore. He wanted this new family to be part of his future. The storm may have brought them together by chance, but it was the bonds they had formed that kept them together. As the rain finally stopped and the sun broke through the clouds, there was a sense of new beginnings. Emily and her children had found a place in Thomas's heart, and he was determined to keep them safe, no matter what lay ahead. As the days turned into weeks, a new routine emerged in the cabin. The storm had long passed, leaving behind clear skies and a renewed landscape. Emily and her children were still there, and Thomas found himself relieved that they had not left. Life in the cabin changed, and Thomas, once a solitary man, began to embrace this change. In the mornings, Thomas would rise early, as was his habit, to tend to the small garden. Emily often joined him, helping to pull weeds and water the plants. Her presence was calming, and they worked side by side in comfortable silence. The children, Sarah and Jack, would wake up not long after, their energy filling the cabin with laughter and noise. Jack, ever curious, followed Thomas around like a shadow. He asked endless questions about everything Thomas did, from chopping wood to fixing things around the cabin. Thomas answered each question patiently, enjoying the boy's enthusiasm. Jack's laughter was infectious, and it brought a lightness to Thomas's days. Sarah, though quieter than her brother, formed a special bond with Thomas. She showed an interest in the woodworking projects he often tinkered with. Thomas, noticing her curiosity, began to teach her the basics of carving. Together, they would sit outside, working with small pieces of wood. Thomas found solace in these moments of shared silence where words were not needed. As they worked, Sarah's small hands carefully followed Thomas's guidance, shaping the wood into simple figures. She was a quick learner, and her focus impressed Thomas. He saw a bit of himself in her, quiet, thoughtful, and determined. Their shared interest in carving created a connection between them, one that needed no words to express. Emily watched these interactions with a sense of gratitude. She saw how Thomas had opened up, how the children had brought new life into his world. She, too, felt the warmth of this newfound family. Her days were filled with a sense of peace she had not known for a long time. While the children played and laughed, Emily and Thomas found moments to talk. Their conversations were deeper now, woven with trust and understanding. They spoke of their dreams and fears, of the paths that had led them to this valley. Emily shared more of her past, her voice steady but tinged with the pain of memories. Thomas listened, offering support without judgment. Their bond grew stronger, forged in the quiet moments and shared tasks. Emily felt safe in the cabin, and the fear that had once gripped her began to fade. She knew she and her children had found more than just shelter, they had found a home. One afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows on the ground, Thomas and Sarah worked on a new carving project. Jack was nearby, playing with a makeshift bow and arrow he had fashioned from twigs and string. Emily was inside, preparing a simple meal. The scene was peaceful, a tableau of a family at ease. Thomas watched Sarah as she carved, her concentration evident in her furrowed brow. He offered gentle guidance, helping her refine her technique. Sarah looked up at him, a smile on her face, her eyes shining with pride at her work. Thomas felt a swell of emotion, realizing how much these moments meant to him. As the day came to an end, the family gathered around the table for dinner. The meal was modest, but the conversation was lively, filled with laughter and shared stories. Thomas marveled at how natural it felt, how much joy he found in these simple gatherings. After dinner, they sat by the fireplace, the warmth enveloping them as the evening chills set in. The children drifted off to sleep, their soft breaths a soothing rhythm. Emily and Thomas sat in silence, content to be in each other's company. The bond between them, forged through days of shared experiences, felt strong and enduring. Thomas realized that he no longer felt like a reclusive widower. The presence of Emily and her children had filled the empty spaces in his heart. He had found something he didn't know he was missing. A sense of belonging, of being part of something greater than himself. Emily, too, felt the shift. She saw the changes in Thomas, the way he had opened his heart to them. She was grateful for his kindness, for the refuge he had provided. She knew that the valley, once a place of escape, was now a place of hope and healing. As the fire burned low, Thomas and Emily exchanged a knowing glance. Words were not needed to express what they both felt. The bond between them was unspoken but understood. a connection that promised new beginnings. The cabin, once a place of solitude, had become a haven of warmth and life. Thomas, Emily, and the children had formed a family, one bound not by blood but by choice. Together, they faced the future with quiet determination, ready to embrace whatever came their way. Life in the cabin continued with a comforting routine. Thomas, Emily, Sarah, and Jack had settled into a rhythm that felt right. The valley was peaceful, and the days passed with a sense of quiet contentment. The children played and learned, while Thomas and Emily found solace in their shared tasks and conversations. But one day the peace was interrupted. A stranger appeared in the small town nearby, asking questions. He inquired about a woman traveling with 2 children. The townspeople, friendly and protective, were curious but cautious. News of the stranger soon reached Thomas and Emily at the cabin. When Emily heard about the stranger, a familiar fear crept back. Her past, which she had hoped to leave behind, seemed to be catching up with her. She tried to remain calm for the children's sake, but Thomas could see the worry in her eyes. Thomas felt a surge of protectiveness. He realized how much he cared for Emily and the children. He did not want anything to break the fragile peace they had found. He reassured Emily that they would face whatever came together. She was not alone anymore. Emily decided to confide more in Thomas. One evening, as the children slept, she told him about the man she had fled from. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. She spoke of an abusive relationship, of the fear that had driven her to leave. She had taken the children and run, hoping for a fresh start far away. Thomas listened, his heart heavy with empathy. He understood the courage it took for Emily to leave, to seek safety for herself and her children. He promised her that he would do everything he could to keep them safe. The bond between them, already strong, deepened with this shared understanding. As the days passed, the tension in the air grew. The stranger was still in town, asking questions and trying to gather information. The community, now aware of Emily's situation, rallied around her. They were a close-knit group, and they did not take kindly to outsiders causing trouble. Thomas found himself re-engaging with the community in ways he had not expected. He had kept to himself for so long, but now he realized how much he had been missed. The townspeople welcomed him back with open arms, eager to support him and Emily. One afternoon, as Thomas and Emily walked through the woods near the cabin, they talked about their next steps. Emily was worried about the stranger, about what he might do if he found them. Thomas reassured her that they would face it together. They had the support of the community, and more importantly, they had each other. Emily felt a sense of relief. She had carried the burden of her past for so long, always looking over her shoulder. Now she had people who cared, who wanted to help. It was a new feeling, one she was still getting used to. Back at the cabin, Sarah and Jack sensed the unease but trusted Thomas and their mother to keep them safe. They carried on with their days, playing outside and helping with chores. Sarah continued her carving lessons with Thomas, finding comfort in the familiar routine. Jack, with his endless energy, kept everyone smiling. The bond between Thomas and the children was evident. They looked up to him, seeing him as a protector and a friend. Thomas, in turn, found joy in their presence. They had brought light into his life, and he was determined to keep that light from dimming. One evening, as the sun set over the valley, Thomas and Emily sat on the porch. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, a moment of beauty in the midst of uncertainty. Emily turned to Thomas, gratitude in her eyes. She thanked him for everything, for opening his home and heart to her and the children. Thomas simply nodded, knowing that words were not needed. Their connection was strong, built on trust and shared experiences. They both knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together. The days that followed were filled with a mix of tension and hope. The stranger's presence was a shadow that loomed over them, but the support of the community was a source of strength. Thomas and Emily prepared for the possibility of confrontation, ready to stand their ground. Emily found courage in the knowledge that she was no longer alone. She had found a place where she belonged, a family that embraced her and her children. The valley, once just a place to hide, had become a home. Thomas, too, felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had spent so long in solitude, wrapped in his own grief. But now he had people to care for, a reason to look to the future with hope. The cabin, once a place of solitude, was now filled with life and laughter. As the sun set each day, casting a warm glow over the valley, Thomas and Emily found comfort in each other's presence. They knew that the path ahead might be challenging, but they were ready to face it. Together, they had built something strong, something that could withstand the shadows of the past. And so, with quiet determination, they prepared for whatever lay ahead, knowing that their bond would see them through. The community in the valley was small but close-knit. Everyone knew each other and news traveled fast. When the stranger started asking questions about Emily, the townsfolk quickly became protective. They had seen Emily and her children around town with Thomas, and they felt a sense of responsibility towards them. Thomas had once been an active member of this community. Before his wife's death, he was friendly and well-liked. But after her passing, he withdrew into himself, preferring solitude over socializing. Now, with Emily and the children in his life, he found himself reconnecting with the people he once knew. The community welcomed him back warmly. They remembered the man he used to be and were glad to see glimpses of that person returning. Thomas attended town meetings and helped with local events, bringing Emily and the children with him. The townspeople quickly grew fond of Sarah and Jack, captivated by their energy and curiosity. Emily was initially cautious around the townsfolk. Her past experiences made her wary of trusting too easily, but she soon realized that these people were genuine in their kindness. They offered help without expecting anything in return, and their support was unwavering. One day, news came that the stranger had returned to town. He was seen speaking with people, trying to gather information about Emily's whereabouts. The community, aware of Emily's situation, closed ranks. They refused to engage with the stranger, turning him away with polite but firm responses. Thomas and Emily knew they couldn't hide forever. They decided to confront the situation head-on. With the community's backing, they felt more confident. They planned to speak with the local authorities, hoping to find a solution that would ensure their safety. At the town meeting that week, Thomas stood up to speak. It was the first time in years that he had addressed the community. He thanked them for their support and explained Emily's situation. His words were simple but heartfelt. He spoke of the importance of protecting those in need and how much Emily and the children meant to him. The response was overwhelming. The townspeople applauded, their support evident. They promised to stand by Thomas and Emily, offering help in any way they could. The sense of solidarity was strong, a testament to the bonds that held the community together. Emily was deeply moved by the show of support. She had never experienced such kindness from strangers. It gave her hope and the courage to face the challenges ahead. She knew that with the community's backing, she and her children would be safe. The next day, Thomas and Emily went to the local sheriff. They explained the situation, providing details about the stranger and Emily's past. The sheriff listened carefully, nodding as he took notes. He assured them that he would keep an eye on the stranger and take action if necessary. With the legal aspects in motion, Thomas and Emily returned to the cabin. The children were waiting for them, eager to hear what had happened. Emily explained things in simple terms, ensuring they understood without frightening them. Sarah and Jack listened intently, their young minds processing the information. Despite the uncertainty, life continued in the valley. The days were filled with chores, laughter, and the comfort of routine. Thomas and Emily found strength in each other, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the stranger reappeared in town. This time, the community was ready. A group of townspeople, including the sheriff, approached him. They made it clear that his presence was not welcome and that they would not tolerate any trouble. The stranger, realizing he was outnumbered and unwelcome, backed down. He left town quietly, his threats empty and his resolve shaken. The community's message had been clear: Emily and her children were under their protection. When Thomas and Emily heard the news, they felt a wave of relief. The immediate threat seemed to be over, but they knew they had to remain cautious. Emily was grateful for the support they had received, a warmth spreading through her heart. As they sat together on the porch that night, the stars twinkling above, Emily turned to Thomas. She thanked him for everything, for standing by her and the children, for opening his home and heart to them. Thomas simply smiled, knowing that their journey was far from over, but confident in their ability to face whatever came next. The valley, once a place of solitude and escape, had become a symbol of hope and resilience. With the community's support and their growing bond, Thomas and Emily knew they could overcome the shadows of the past. Together, they had found a family, one that would stand strong against any storm. And so, as the night enveloped the valley, Thomas and Emily sat side by side, ready to embrace the future with hope and determination. They were no longer just surviving, they were living, and that made all the difference. The air was crisp and cool as Thomas and Emily prepared to visit the town. The events of the past weeks lingered in their minds, but the community's recent show of support had given them strength. They knew they had allies and were ready to face whatever challenges came next. As they walked into town, hand in hand, their path was lined with trees shedding golden leaves. Sarah and Jack ran ahead, giggling and chasing each other. Emily watched them, a smile tugging at her lips. Seeing her children happy and carefree was a joy she had not felt in a long time. Once they reached the town, they noticed the atmosphere was lively. People were out and about, engaged in their daily routines. It was a bustling morning, and the presence of familiar faces greeted them warmly. Thomas felt a renewed sense of belonging, reminded of the community that had embraced them so fully. Their first stop was the sheriff's office. They wanted to check on the situation with the stranger and ensure there were no lingering threats. The sheriff greeted them with a firm handshake and a reassuring nod. He informed them that the stranger had left town and had not been seen since. The community's united front had sent a clear message, and the man seemed to have understood it. Hearing this, Emily felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The fear that had shadowed her steps for so long began to dissipate. She thanked the sheriff, her gratitude evident in her eyes. He promised to keep a watchful eye on things, just in case. Knowing they had his support was comforting. With that concern addressed, Thomas and Emily decided to visit the town square. There was a small market and a few stalls set up with local produce and handmade goods. Sarah and Jack were excited, their eyes wide with wonder at the colors and sounds around them. As they wandered through the market, they stopped to chat with vendors and townspeople. Some offered small gifts for the children, an apple here, a carved trinket there. The children's laughter was infectious, spreading joy to everyone they met. While the children were occupied, Thomas and Emily took a moment to sit on a bench in the square. It was a rare moment of quiet amidst the bustling crowd. Emily looked at Thomas, her eyes reflecting the gratitude she felt. "It's starting to feel like home," she said softly, acknowledging the journey they had taken to reach this point. Thomas nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. The valley, the town, and the people had become a part of their lives, offering a sense of belonging he had not felt since his wife's passing. Emily and the children had filled the empty spaces in his heart, and he was grateful for their presence. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by the arrival of a familiar face. It was Mrs. Jenkins, an elderly woman who ran the local bakery. She was known for her delicious pastries and warm heart. She approached them with a basket, offering them freshly baked bread and cookies. Emily accepted the gift with a smile, thanking Mrs. Jenkins for her kindness. The woman waved off the thanks, insisting it was the least she could do. She was happy to see Emily and the children settling in and getting to know the town. As Mrs. Jenkins walked away, Thomas and Emily shared a quiet laugh. The warmth of the community was overwhelming in the best possible way. They felt not just accepted but embraced, a part of something larger than themselves. Later that afternoon, they returned to the cabin. The children, tired from the day's adventures, settled down with their new treasures. Thomas and Emily sat on the porch, enjoying the tranquility of the valley. The leaves rustled softly in the breeze, and the sun cast a golden glow over the landscape. Their thoughts turned to the future, to the life they were building together. Emily knew that the past would always be a part of her, but it no longer defined her. She was determined to move forward, to create a safe and happy life for her children. Thomas, too, found himself looking ahead. The presence of Emily and the children had changed him, reminded him of the joy that life could bring. He realized that he no longer wanted to live in solitude, that he had found a family he wanted to protect and cherish. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat in comfortable silence, wrapped in the warmth of their shared dreams. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together. The bond they had forged was strong, built on trust, resilience, and love. The valley, once a place of refuge and solitude, had transformed into a home filled with laughter and hope. Thomas and Emily were no longer just surviving, they were truly living, embracing each day with gratitude and joy. And so, as night fell and the stars appeared in the sky, they held onto each other, ready to embrace whatever the future held. In the safe haven of the valley, surrounded by the strength of their community and the love they had found, they knew they could overcome anything. Together, they were more than just a family, they were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love to heal and transform. Winter settled gently over the valley, covering the landscape with a soft blanket of snow. The air was crisp and the world seemed to slow down, wrapped in the quiet of the season. For Thomas, Emily, Sarah, and Jack, life in the cabin continued to flourish, each day bringing new moments of joy and connection. Inside the cabin, the fireplace crackled with warmth, casting a comforting glow. Emily and Thomas found themselves falling into an easy rhythm, their days marked by simple pleasures and shared responsibilities. The children thrived in this environment, their laughter echoing through the cabin, a constant reminder of the life they were building together. Thomas had grown fond of the children, treating them as if they were his own. Jack, with his boundless energy, often begged Thomas to take him outside to play in the snow. They would spend hours building snowmen and throwing snowballs, their laughter ringing through the crisp air. Jack looked up to Thomas, seeing him as a mentor and a friend. Sarah, meanwhile, had developed a deep bond with Thomas through their shared love of woodworking. She spent hours by his side, learning the craft and honing her skills. Her concentration and dedication impressed Thomas, and he found great joy in teaching her. Sarah's eyes shone with pride as she completed each new project, her confidence growing with every carving. Emily watched these interactions with a full heart. She saw how happy her children were, how much they had blossomed in this new life. She was grateful for Thomas and the love he showed them. It was more than she had ever hoped for, and it filled her with peace. As the days passed, the cabin became a true family home. Thomas and Emily worked together seamlessly, whether preparing meals or tackling the endless list of chores. They shared stories and dreams, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. The connection between them was undeniable, a steady presence in their lives. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Thomas and Emily sat by the fire, enjoying the quiet. The warmth of the flames mirrored the warmth in their hearts. Emily looked at Thomas, her eyes reflecting the gratitude she felt. She spoke softly, acknowledging how much he meant to her and how he had changed their lives. Thomas listened, his heart swelling with emotion. He had spent so long in solitude, wrapped in his own grief, that he had almost forgotten the joy of companionship. Emily and the children had brought light into his life, and he was profoundly grateful. He knew that he had found something special, something worth holding on to. Their conversation turned to the future, to the life they wanted to build together. Emily expressed her desire to stay in the valley, to make the cabin their permanent home. Thomas was thrilled at the idea, knowing that his life was infinitely richer with them in it. They spoke of dreams and plans, their voices filled with hope and promise. As they sat together, Emily reached for Thomas's hand, a gesture that spoke volumes. The touch was gentle but firm, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared. In that moment, Thomas realized the depth of his feelings for Emily. He saw a future that was bright and full of possibility. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows, the children bounded into the room, their excitement palpable. They had planned a day of activities, eager to make the most of the winter weather. Thomas and Emily watched them, their hearts full of love and pride. Sarah and Jack had begun to call Thomas Uncle, a term of endearment that touched him deeply. It was a sign of their affection and trust, and it reinforced the sense of family that had grown between them. Thomas embraced the role wholeheartedly, eager to be a source of support and guidance for them. The day was filled with laughter and play, the family venturing outside to enjoy the snow. They built snow forts and slid down gentle slopes, the chill in the air forgotten in the warmth of their joy. Thomas and Emily joined in the fun, their laughter mingling with the children's, creating a symphony of happiness. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, the family returned to the cabin. They gathered around the table for dinner, sharing stories and laughter. The meal was simple but filled with love, a reflection of the life they had created together. After dinner, they gathered by the fire, the warmth enveloping them as the night settled in. The children drifted off to sleep, their soft breaths a soothing rhythm. Thomas and Emily sat side by side, content in the knowledge that they had found something truly special. The bond between them, forged in the quiet moments and shared experiences, was strong and enduring. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The valley, once a place of solitude, had become a haven of love and hope. As the fire burned low and the stars appeared in the sky, Thomas and Emily held onto each other, ready to embrace whatever the future held. They were no longer just surviving, they were living, and that made all the difference. In the warmth of the cabin, surrounded by the love of their newfound family, they knew they had found their home. The days in the valley grew longer as winter slowly gave way to spring. The snow began to melt, revealing patches of green beneath. The air was still crisp, but there was a promise of warmth in the sun's light. Life in the cabin continued to flourish, filled with laughter, love, and a sense of belonging. One afternoon, as Emily tidied up the cabin, she came across an old wooden box tucked away in a corner. It was covered in dust, forgotten in the passage of time. Curious, she opened it carefully. Inside, she found a collection of letters, their edges yellowed with age. The handwriting was neat and familiar, and Emily realized they belonged to Thomas's late wife. Emily hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to read the letters. She felt a mix of curiosity and respect, aware of the deep love Thomas had for his wife. But something compelled her to learn more about the woman who had been such an important part of Thomas's life. As she read through the letters, Emily discovered a side of Thomas she had never seen before. The letters were filled with dreams and plans, hopes for a future that had never come to pass. They spoke of love and joy, of the life Thomas and his wife had envisioned together. Emily felt a pang of sadness for what had been lost, but she also understood more about the man Thomas had been and the man he had become. Later that day, Thomas noticed the open box and the letters spread out on the table. He paused, a mixture of emotions flickering across his face. Emily looked up, meeting his gaze with an understanding expression. She saw no need to apologize, knowing that this was an important part of who he was. Thomas sat down beside her, taking a deep breath. He began to talk about his wife, sharing memories and stories he had kept to himself for so long. Emily listened quietly, offering support through her presence. She understood the importance of these memories, the way they shaped the person Thomas was today. As they talked, Emily shared her own experiences, her own journey of love and loss. The conversation flowed naturally, a tapestry of their lives woven together with understanding and empathy. They spoke of the past, but also of the future, acknowledging the need to let go in order to move forward. Thomas realized that holding on to the past had kept him from fully embracing the present. The letters, once a source of comfort, now felt like a bridge to a new chapter in his life. He saw the potential for happiness and love in the life he was building with Emily and the children. The bond between Thomas and Emily deepened with this shared understanding. They had both known loss and they both carried scars. But they also knew the strength that came from overcoming, from choosing to embrace life despite the pain. Over the next few days, Emily noticed a change in Thomas. He seemed lighter, more at peace with himself. The burden he had carried for so long was beginning to lift, making room for new possibilities. Emily felt a similar shift within herself, a release from the shadows of her own past. Together, they decided to make the cabin truly theirs, a place that reflected their shared journey and dreams. They worked side by side, rearranging furniture, adding personal touches, and creating a space that felt like home. The children joined in, eager to contribute to their new life. Sarah and Jack sensed the change too. They noticed the way Thomas and Emily interacted, the unspoken connection between them. It made them feel secure, knowing they were part of something strong and enduring. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Emily shared her thoughts about the future. She spoke of staying in the valley, of making the cabin their permanent home. Thomas agreed wholeheartedly, his eyes shining with love and commitment. The children were thrilled, their faces lighting up with excitement. They had grown to love the valley, the freedom it offered, and the sense of belonging they felt. The prospect of staying filled them with joy. As the night wore on, Thomas and Emily sat on the porch, watching the stars appear in the clear sky. They talked about their dreams, the life they wanted to build together. There was a sense of hope and promise in their words, a belief in the future they were creating. Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude for the path that had led her here, to this moment of peace and happiness. She knew that the journey had been difficult, but it had brought her to a place she had never dared to dream of. Thomas, too, felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had found love again, a love that honored the past but looked to the future. The cabin, once a place of solitude and reflection, had become a symbol of resilience and renewal. As they sat together, hand in hand, they knew that the past would always be a part of them. But it no longer held them back. They were ready to embrace whatever came next, confident in their ability to face it together. In the quiet of the valley, surrounded by the love of their newfound family, Thomas and Emily had found a home. They were no longer defined by their pasts, but by the life they were building hand in hand. And in that shared journey, they discovered the true meaning of love and belonging. The arrival of spring brought a sense of renewal to the valley. Flowers began to bloom, and the air was filled with the fresh scent of growth. The cabin was alive with activity as Thomas, Emily, Sarah, and Jack embraced the changes around them. Their days were filled with laughter and the simple joys of family life. But just as they settled into this newfound peace, a shadow loomed on the horizon. One morning, a letter arrived for Emily. It was from a lawyer representing the stranger who had once threatened their safety. The letter contained legal documents claiming custody of Sarah and Jack. Emily felt her heart sink as she read the words. The threat she had hoped was behind them had returned, more real and immediate than before. Panic gripped her for a moment, but she quickly pushed it aside. She knew she could not face this alone. Thomas found her on the porch, the letter clutched tightly in her hand. He read it, his expression growing serious. The threat was clear, and they both understood the gravity of the situation. Emily's past had resurfaced, demanding a fight she had hoped to avoid. They sat together, discussing their next steps. It was clear they needed legal advice, someone who could help them navigate the complex situation. Thomas suggested they visit Mr. Harper, an old friend and a respected lawyer in the nearby town. He had helped many in the community and was known for his integrity and dedication. That afternoon, they made the journey to see Mr. Harper, leaving the children with a trusted neighbor. The drive was quiet, each lost in their thoughts. Emily felt a mix of fear and determination. She knew she had to protect her children, no matter the cost. Mr. Harper welcomed them into his office with a warm smile. He listened carefully as they explained the situation, nodding thoughtfully as he took notes. Emily shared her concerns, her voice steady despite the anxiety she felt. After reviewing the documents, Mr. Harper leaned back in his chair. He assured them that they had a strong case. The stranger's claim was weak and based on false pretenses. He promised to help them fight for their family using every legal means available. Hearing this, Emily felt a flicker of hope. She knew they had a long road ahead, but having Mr. Harper on their side was a comfort. Thomas, too, felt a sense of relief. They were not alone in this fight, and they were determined to see it through. Over the next few weeks, preparations for the legal battle consumed their time. Mr. Harper worked tirelessly, gathering evidence and building their case. Emily and Thomas spent long hours with him, providing details and answering questions. It was a challenging process, but they faced it with resilience and determination. The community, once again, rallied around them. Friends and neighbors offered support, helping with the children and providing moral encouragement. Their solidarity was a source of strength for Emily and Thomas, a reminder of the bonds they had formed. As the court date approached, Emily felt a mix of nerves and resolve. She knew the stranger would try to paint a false picture, to manipulate the situation to his advantage. But she also knew the truth was on their side and she was ready to fight for her children. On the day of the hearing, the town hall was filled with familiar faces. The community had come to show their support, a united front against the threat to Emily and her family. Thomas felt a swell of gratitude as he looked around, seeing the strength of their allies. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. The stranger sat with his lawyer, a smirk on his face. Emily felt a surge of anger, but she quickly calmed herself. She focused on the task at hand, determined to prove that her children belonged with her. The proceedings began, and Mr. Harper presented their case with clarity and conviction. He spoke of Emily's dedication as a mother, the safe and loving home she had created with Thomas. He highlighted the community's support, painting a picture of the life Emily had built for her children. The stranger's lawyer attempted to counter with claims and accusations, but Mr. Harper was prepared. He dismantled each argument with facts and evidence, exposing the weaknesses in their case. Emily watched, her confidence growing with each passing moment. When it was her turn to speak, Emily stood tall, her voice steady and clear. She spoke from the heart, describing the journey she had taken to protect her children, the life they had found in the valley. Her words were powerful, resonating with everyone in the room. Thomas also took the stand, sharing his perspective on the family they had become. He spoke of his love for Emily and the children, his commitment to their future. His testimony was heartfelt and sincere, moving many in the audience. As the hearing drew to a close, the judge took a moment to review the evidence and testimonies. The room was silent, the tension palpable. Finally, the judge spoke, his decision clear and firm. He ruled in favor of Emily, dismissing the stranger's claims. A wave of relief washed over Emily, tears of joy filling her eyes. Thomas squeezed her hand, his own emotions evident. The community erupted in applause, their support unwavering. As they left the courtroom, Emily felt a sense of peace and triumph. The threat had been vanquished and their family was safe. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she also knew they could face anything together. The valley, once a place of refuge, was now a place of victory. Emily, Thomas, and the children had overcome the shadows of the past, emerging stronger and more united than ever. They returned home, ready to continue their journey, confident in the love and strength of their newfound family. The day of the court hearing had arrived and the air was thick with anticipation. Emily, Thomas, Sarah, and Jack prepared themselves for what lay ahead. They knew it would be a challenging day, but they drew strength from each other and the community that stood behind them. The morning sun cast a warm glow over the valley as they made their way to the town hall. The children, sensing the gravity of the day, were quieter than usual. Emily held their hands, offering them reassurance with her presence. Thomas walked beside them, a steady figure of support. When they reached the town hall, they were greeted by a crowd of familiar faces. Friends and neighbors had gathered to show their support, filling the room with warmth and solidarity. Emily felt a swell of gratitude, knowing they were not facing this alone. The courtroom was packed, the atmosphere tense but hopeful. The community's presence was a testament to their belief in Emily and her family. It was a powerful reminder of the bonds they had formed, the strength of unity in the face of adversity. As the proceedings began, Emily took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battle ahead. Mr. Harper, their lawyer, presented their case with confidence and clarity. He painted a vivid picture of the life Emily had built for her children, emphasizing the love and stability they had found in the valley. The stranger's lawyer attempted to undermine their case, presenting accusations and claims. But Mr. Harper was prepared, countering each point with evidence and facts. His arguments were methodical and precise, dismantling the opposition's case piece by piece. Emily watched the proceedings with a mix of nerves and resolve. She knew the truth was on their side and she trusted Mr. Harper to represent them well. Her heart swelled with pride as she listened to his eloquent defense of their family. When it was her turn to speak, Emily rose with quiet dignity. She spoke from the heart, describing the journey she had taken to protect her children and the new life they had found in the valley. Her words were filled with emotion, resonating with everyone in the room. Thomas also took the stand, offering his perspective on the family they had become. He spoke of his love for Emily and the children, his commitment to their future. His testimony was sincere and heartfelt, touching many in the audience. As the hearing progressed, the community's support was palpable. They watched intently, their presence a source of strength for Emily and Thomas. The children sat quietly, sensing the importance of the moment. Finally, the judge called for a recess, taking time to review the evidence and testimonies. The room buzzed with anticipation, the tension building as everyone awaited the decision. When the judge returned, the room fell silent. His expression was thoughtful as he addressed the courtroom. He praised both sides for their arguments but emphasized the importance of the children's well-being. With a firm voice, the judge ruled in favor of Emily, dismissing the stranger's claims. A wave of relief and joy swept through the room, the tension giving way to celebration. Emily felt tears of happiness welling up, her heart light with the knowledge that her children were safe. Thomas embraced her, his own emotions evident in his eyes. The community erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the hall. It was a moment of triumph, a victory for love and family. As they left the courtroom, Emily and Thomas were surrounded by friends and well-wishers. The support and love were overwhelming, a testament to the bonds they had formed. The children, sensing the joy around them, smiled brightly, their eyes shining with happiness. The journey home was filled with laughter and relief. The threat that had loomed over them was gone, and their family was intact. Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude for the support they had received, for the community that had embraced them so fully. Back at the cabin, they celebrated with a simple but joyful meal. The room was filled with warmth and laughter, a reflection of the life they had built together. Emily looked around the table, her heart full as she watched the people she loved. Thomas, too, felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The cabin, once a place of solitude, had become a home filled with love and life. He was grateful for the journey that had brought them here, for the family they had found. As the evening wore on, they sat together by the fire, the warmth enveloping them as the night settled in. The children drifted off to sleep, their soft breaths a soothing rhythm. Emily and Thomas sat side by side, content in the knowledge that they had overcome the challenges before them. The valley, once a refuge, was now a place of victory and hope. Emily, Thomas, and the children had faced the shadows of the past and emerged stronger and more united. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together. In the quiet of the cabin, surrounded by the love of their newfound family, they knew they had found their home. They were no longer just surviving, they were living, and that made all the difference. Together, they embraced the future with hope and determination, ready to face whatever came next. With the legal battle behind them, life in the valley took on a new sense of peace. The tension that had shadowed their days lifted, replaced by a feeling of safety and contentment. Emily, Thomas, Sarah, and Jack embraced the freedom to focus on the future, building on the foundation they had created together. The valley was alive with the signs of spring, the landscape bursting with color and life. The cabin, once a solitary refuge, was now a vibrant home filled with laughter and warmth. Emily and Thomas found joy in the everyday moments, the simple pleasures of family life. Emily decided to make their stay permanent, a commitment to the life they had built. The decision brought her a deep sense of satisfaction, a recognition of how far they had come. She spoke with Thomas about her plans, and he was thrilled, sharing her excitement for the future. Together, they began to make improvements to the cabin, transforming it into a space that reflected their journey. They painted the walls, planted a garden, and added personal touches that made it uniquely theirs. The children joined in, eager to contribute to their home. Sarah and Jack thrived in the valley, their days filled with exploration and play. They attended the local school, quickly making friends and settling into their new routines. Their joy and curiosity were infectious, spreading happiness to everyone around them. Sarah continued her carving lessons with Thomas, her skills improving with each project. She took pride in her work, often presenting her creations as gifts to family and friends. Thomas watched her with pride, grateful for the bond they shared. Jack, with his boundless energy, found adventure in every corner of the valley. He and Thomas spent hours fishing in the nearby stream, Jack's laughter echoing through the trees. Thomas cherished these moments, knowing he was creating memories that would last a lifetime. As the days passed, Emily and Thomas found themselves drawn closer together. Their bond, forged through shared experiences and challenges, deepened with each passing day. They spoke often of their dreams and plans, envisioning a future filled with love and possibility. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Emily turned to Thomas with a thoughtful expression. She spoke of her desire to formalize their commitment to marry and create a lasting, legal bond. Thomas listened, his heart full of love and gratitude. He had thought of the same, and the idea filled him with joy. They discussed their plans, envisioning a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by the people who meant the most to them. It would be a celebration of their journey, a testament to the love and strength they had found in each other. The community, when they heard the news, was delighted. They offered their support, eager to help with the preparations. The valley buzzed with excitement, the anticipation of the upcoming celebration bringing everyone closer together. As the day of the wedding approached, Emily and Thomas found themselves filled with a mix of nerves and excitement. The children were thrilled, their enthusiasm adding to the joy of the occasion. Sarah and Jack took their roles seriously, eager to be part of the ceremony. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear, the valley bathed in sunlight. The ceremony took place in a small clearing, surrounded by the beauty of nature. Friends and family gathered, their presence a testament to the bonds that had been formed. Emily stood with Sarah by her side, her heart full of emotion. She wore a simple dress, her hair adorned with flowers picked by the children. Thomas, standing with Jack beside him, looked at her with love and admiration. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt, a reflection of their journey and the life they had built together. They exchanged vows, their promises filled with love and commitment. The words were spoken softly, but they resonated deeply with everyone present. As they were pronounced husband and wife, the crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the valley. Emily and Thomas embraced, their hearts full as they began this new chapter together. The celebration that followed was filled with laughter and joy, a true reflection of the community's spirit. There was food and music, the air filled with the sounds of happiness and camaraderie. The children played and danced, their laughter a constant melody. Emily and Thomas moved through the crowd, grateful for the love and support that surrounded them. They knew that this was more than just a wedding. It was a celebration of the life they had created, a testament to the power of love and resilience. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the valley, Emily and Thomas took a moment to themselves. They stood hand in hand, watching as the stars began to appear in the sky. The future stretched out before them, filled with promise and possibility. In the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the love of their family and community, they knew they had found something truly special. The cabin, once a place of solitude, had become a home filled with laughter and hope. Together, they had overcome the challenges of the past, emerging stronger and more united. As they stood there, ready to embrace whatever the future held, they knew they were no longer just surviving. They were living. Their love, built on trust and shared experiences, was a beacon of light in the valley, a testament to the power of hope and the strength of family. Spring arrived in full bloom, bringing with it a sense of renewal and fresh beginnings. The valley was alive with color, the trees bursting with green, and flowers carpeting the ground. The air was filled with the scent of blossoms, and the sound of birdsong echoed through the trees. For Thomas, Emily, Sarah, and Jack, the season symbolized more than just a change in weather. It marked the start of a new chapter in their lives. The wedding had been a beautiful celebration, a testament to their love and commitment. Now they were focused on the future, eager to build on the foundation they had created. In the weeks that followed, the family settled into a comfortable routine. The cabin was a hub of activity, filled with laughter and the joy of everyday moments. Emily and Thomas embraced their roles as partners in life, working together to nurture their home and family. The garden they had planted began to thrive, the first shoots of vegetables poking through the soil. Emily and the children tended to it with care, their hands busy with the work of nurturing new life. Thomas watched them, a smile on his face, grateful for the happiness they had found. Sarah and Jack continued to grow and flourish, their days filled with learning and play. They attended school, where they had made friends and settled into the community. Their laughter was a constant presence, a reminder of the joy that filled their home. Sarah's interest in woodworking continued to blossom under Thomas's guidance. She spent hours in the workshop, her hands deftly shaping pieces of wood into beautiful creations. Thomas took pride in her progress, seeing in her a reflection of his own love for the craft. Jack, ever the adventurer, found joy in exploring the valley. He and Thomas often spent afternoons fishing or hiking, the bond between them growing stronger with each shared adventure. Jack's curiosity and energy were boundless, and Thomas cherished the time they spent together. One sunny afternoon, as the family worked in the garden, Emily and Thomas spoke of their dreams for the future. They envisioned a life filled with love and happiness, a continuation of the journey they had begun. Their plans were simple yet meaningful, centered around their family and the home they cherished. Emily expressed her desire to expand the garden, to grow more of their own food and become more self-sufficient. Thomas agreed, eager to support her vision. They talked of building a small greenhouse, a project that would provide fresh produce year-round. As they discussed their plans, Sarah and Jack joined in, their excitement infectious. They offered ideas and suggestions, eager to contribute to the family's goals. Emily and Thomas listened, grateful for their children's enthusiasm and involvement. The days passed with a sense of purpose, each one filled with the work of building their dreams. The family worked together, their shared efforts strengthening the bonds between them. The cabin, once a place of solitude, was now a bustling home filled with life and love. As spring turned to summer, the valley became a haven of warmth and sunlight. The family spent their days outdoors, enjoying the beauty of the season. They held picnics by the stream, played games in the meadow, and sat on the porch, watching the stars appear in the night sky. The community remained a steadfast source of support and friendship. Neighbors often visited, bringing with them laughter and stories. Emily and Thomas cherished these connections, grateful for the sense of belonging they had found. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of color, Thomas and Emily sat together on the porch, reflecting on their journey. They spoke of the challenges they had faced, the victories they had won, and the love that had carried them through. Their hearts were full, their dreams intertwined with the life they had built. Emily looked at Thomas, her eyes shining with gratitude. She spoke of how much he meant to her, how his love had transformed her life. Thomas listened, his heart swelling with emotion. He knew he had found something truly special, a love that was deep and enduring. As they sat together, hand in hand, they knew that the future was bright. They had overcome the shadows of the past, emerging stronger and more united. The cabin, nestled in the heart of the valley, was more than just a home, it was a symbol of resilience and hope. The family's journey was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever came next. Together, they would continue to build a life filled with love and laughter, a testament to the strength of their bond. In the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the beauty of the valley, Thomas and Emily knew they had found their forever. They were no longer just surviving, they were living, embracing each day with joy and gratitude. Their love, rooted in trust and shared experiences, was a beacon of light in the world, a testament to the power of hope and the strength of family. As summer settled over the valley, the days grew long and filled with warmth. The family embraced the season, their activities centered around the cabin and the beautiful landscape that surrounded them. Emily, Thomas, Sarah, and Jack found joy in the simple pleasures of life, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. But just as they had settled into this peaceful routine, an unwelcome reminder of the past appeared. One afternoon, as they were returning from a visit to town, they saw a familiar figure standing by the road near their home. It was the stranger, the man who had once threatened their family. Emily felt a jolt of fear at the sight of him, memories of the past rushing back. Thomas noticed her reaction and immediately placed a reassuring hand on her back. They both knew they had to confront this shadow from their past, but they were not alone this time. The strength of their family and community stood with them. The stranger approached with an air of bravado, but there was something different about him. The confidence he had once exuded seemed diminished, a shadow of its former self. Thomas and Emily exchanged a glance, their resolve firm. They would not let fear dictate their lives. As the stranger began to speak, his words were filled with bluster and empty threats. He tried to assert control, claiming he had come to take the children. But his voice wavered, lacking the conviction it once had. Emily, her voice steady, stood her ground. She reminded him that the court had ruled in their favor, that the children were safe with her and Thomas. Her confidence was unwavering, bolstered by the support of Thomas and the community. Thomas stepped forward, his presence a solid wall of support. He spoke calmly but firmly, making it clear that the stranger had no power over them. The community had rallied behind them before, and they would do so again if needed. The children watched from a distance, sensing the tension but trusting in their parents' strength. Sarah held Jack's hand, offering him comfort as they stood together. They had grown so much since their first arrival in the valley, their confidence and resilience a testament to the love and security they had found. The stranger, realizing his attempts were futile, faltered. His bravado crumbled under the weight of the truth. He had lost the legal battle, and the family was stronger than he had anticipated. The power he sought to wield was nothing but an illusion. As he turned to leave, Emily felt a sense of release. The fear that had once gripped her was gone, replaced by a calm determination. She watched him go, knowing that his departure marked the end of a chapter, one filled with challenges, but also with victories. Thomas stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders. They had faced the storm together and had emerged stronger. The valley, their home, was a place of safety and love, and nothing could take that away from them. With the stranger gone, life in the valley continued with renewed vigor. The family focused on their dreams and plans, their hearts light with the knowledge that they had overcome the shadows of the past. The cabin, once a place of refuge, was now a symbol of triumph and resilience. The community, hearing of the encounter, rallied around them once more. Friends and neighbors visited, offering support and reassurance. Their presence was a reminder of the strength found in unity, the power of standing together against adversity. As the days turned into weeks, the family settled back into their routine. The garden flourished under Emily's care, the plants growing tall and strong. Sarah and Jack continued to thrive, their laughter and energy a constant source of joy. Thomas and Emily found happiness in the everyday moments, the simple acts of love and partnership that defined their life together. They worked side by side, their bond deepening with each shared experience. The future stretched out before them, filled with promise and possibility. One evening, as the sun set over the valley, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, they sat together on the porch. The air was warm, a gentle breeze rustling through the trees. Emily leaned against Thomas, her heart full. They spoke of their journey, of the challenges and victories that had shaped their lives. Their voices were filled with gratitude, a recognition of how far they had come. The love they shared was a testament to the strength they had found in each other. As the stars began to appear, twinkling in the night sky, they knew that the future was bright. They had faced the shadows of the past and had emerged stronger, their family a beacon of hope and love. In the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the beauty of the valley, they were content. They had found their forever, a life filled with laughter and joy. Together, they were ready to embrace whatever came next, confident in the strength of their bond and the love that filled their hearts. The valley was bathed in the golden light of summer, the days long and filled with warmth. Life in the cabin had settled into a comfortable routine, each day a testament to the peace and joy they had found. Emily, Thomas, Sarah, and Jack had created a home filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. As the weeks passed, the family continued to thrive. The garden, tended with care, provided an abundance of fresh produce. Emily took pride in each harvest, sharing the bounty with friends and neighbors. The act of nurturing the garden was a reflection of the life they had cultivated together. Sarah and Jack grew with each passing day, their personalities blossoming in the nurturing environment. Sarah's carving skills had flourished under Thomas's guidance, her creations becoming more intricate and beautiful. Jack's adventurous spirit led him to new discoveries, his curiosity a constant source of wonder. Thomas and Emily found joy in the everyday moments, their partnership a source of strength and comfort. They worked together seamlessly, their bond evident in the way they moved through life side by side. The love they shared was deep and enduring, a foundation upon which their family was built. One evening, as they gathered around the dinner table, Emily reflected on their journey. She spoke of the challenges they had faced, the victories they had won, and the love that had carried them through. Her words were filled with gratitude, a recognition of how far they had come. Thomas listened, his heart full. He knew that their journey had not been easy, but it had brought them to a place of peace and happiness. The cabin, once a place of solitude, was now a vibrant home filled with life and love. After dinner, they sat together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky with brilliant hues. The children played nearby, their laughter a joyful melody that filled the air. Emily leaned against Thomas, content in the knowledge that they had built something truly special. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Thomas turned to Emily, his voice filled with emotion. He spoke of his gratitude for her, for the love and happiness she had brought into his life. Emily listened, her heart swelling with love and appreciation. They spoke of the future, of the dreams and plans they held dear. Their voices were filled with hope, a testament to the strength of their bond and the life they had created together. The valley, their home, was a place of beauty and promise, a reflection of the love they shared. In the days that followed, life continued to unfold with a sense of purpose and joy. The family embraced each new day, finding happiness in the simple pleasures of life. The cabin, nestled in the heart of the valley, was a haven of warmth and love. The community remained a steadfast source of support and friendship. Friends and neighbors visited often, their presence a reminder of the bonds that had been formed. Emily and Thomas cherished these connections, grateful for the sense of belonging they had found. As summer began to wane, the family prepared for the changing seasons. They gathered firewood, preserved the harvest, and readied the cabin for the cooler months ahead. The work was done with a sense of shared purpose, each task a reflection of their commitment to one another. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves began to turn, Emily and Thomas took a walk through the valley. The air was cool, the landscape a tapestry of color. They spoke of their journey, of the challenges they had faced, and the victories they had won. Their conversation was filled with gratitude, a recognition of the strength they had found in each other. The love they shared was a beacon of light, guiding them through the challenges of the past and illuminating the path to the future. As they returned to the cabin hand in hand, they knew that they had found their forever. The valley, once a refuge, was now a place of hope and joy. Together, they had built a life filled with laughter and love, a testament to the power of family and the strength of the human spirit. In the quiet of the evening, surrounded by the beauty of the valley and the love of their family, Emily and Thomas were content. They were no longer just surviving, they were living, embracing each day with joy and gratitude. Their journey, filled with challenges and triumphs, had brought them to a place of peace and happiness. Together, they faced the future with hope and determination, confident in the strength of their bond and the love that filled their hearts. In the warmth of the cabin, surrounded by the laughter of their children, they knew they had found their home. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.